Remix.
Okay.
It's the internet, you're busy, let's do this. Welcome to the GamesBeat Decides podcast. This is the podcast where we decide everything about the world of games so you don't have to. I'm your host, Jeffrey Grubb. With me is Mike Minotti. Go ahead, say hello in a polite and cordial manner, Mike.
Hello in a polite and cordial manner, Mike. Ha ha ha. That's a classic.
Coming at
Never
us with
gets old, that
that
one.
hot Home Alone humor. You're basically my Kevin McAllister at all times, Mike.
I do like that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, never mind. I didn't mean to, compliment you. In today's episode, we will go over the week's news, and then we're going to talk about Sony at E3 and kind of preview what they're going to have at this year's show. First, though, I want to thank everyone for joining us. Also, thank you to our sponsor, Intel. This show comes out every week. We're able to take time out of our dumb days to do it because we have a sponsor like Intel that enables us to release it for free. You can get more from me and Mike at GamesBeat.com. If you have something to share with us, email the podcast at gamespluspodcast@VentureBeat.com. If you're watching on Facebook or YouTube or Twitch, you can subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, more. I don't care actually where you get it. Just get it. Just look for GamesBeat Decides. Finally, if you like the show, rate us on Apple Podcasts, and it'll help people find it. Okay. One more thing. I think we should probably tell people about our little NES controller giveaway thing right at the top, so people can kind of understand what it is.
Yeah. So for those lucky people that actually have an NES Classic.
Right. Exactly. So if you manage to get your hands on an NES Classic at some point, if you were smart enough to outsmart Nintendo and their devious attempts to keep you from getting something from them, to keep you from buying one of their products.
Best-selling system of last month.
Yeah. We have 5 wireless NES Classic Edition controllers. What we want to do is we want to give these away to some of you all. And the way we're going to do this is that email address I just gave out, gamespluspodcast@venturebeat.com. We want you to email us your memories of the NES. Kind of anything, whatever comes to mind, whatever springs to. Mike, are you emailing right now? Are you trying to win the controller?
No, I don't
editing.
think.
I don't.
I'm trimming down the news section.
He's lying. He's not. Don't worry. He's not eligible. He can't win. It's going to be for you guys out there. So just send those off to us at gamespluspodcast@venturebeat.com. Again, that is the plus sign. We just want to hear kind of what it was like growing up with the NES. And if you're younger than that and you didn't have an NES when you were younger, maybe just your general Nintendo memories. We're not going to be too picky or stingy about this. So send those off to us.
I'm going to disqualify people left and right until only I'm left and I win by default. I do not care what you just said about me not being able to win.
I mean, if you do it in a Highlander style where there is only one left, literally, and it's just you and you've cut off other people's heads, Mike, I think I'll just give you a controller out of fear. Just plain fear.
Then
There he goes. Well, what are we going to talk about now?
I inspire a lot of fear in people.
Yeah, totally, yeah. I mean, if you're holding someone's head just for an NES controller, Mike, I'm going to do a lot of things. We should probably jump into kind of some of the games we've been playing recently.
Sure.
Let's do something a little different and let you start by talking about Nier Automata.
How about that? Oh, you're just making up for last week when you almost didn't let me talk about it at all.
I don't remember this. That doesn't ring any bells.
That was funny. Yeah, so I've been playing. I got to play a lot of it this weekend, and I still really like it. The cool thing this time is, I quote unquote beat the game for the first time. But like the setup of this game is like it's meant to be played through multiple times. And kind of each time you play through it again, there's something interesting and different, weird things happening. It's kind of a new game plus thing where you keep a lot of the stuff you got through the last game, and also a lot of the side missions you did, like. You don't do those again. So it's not as monotonous as it sounds, because when you're just kind of playing through the main missions, and I don't want to say like what the new and different things are, but with those things happening, it's still really cool to like play through it again, see that stuff. And again, since you're not doing like repeating side missions, it doesn't feel super like you're doing the same thing over again. So that aspect of it is actually like another really neat thing to it.
Yeah, I was really surprised to hear that New Game Plus isn't just the same game over again where you keep all your items. No. It really is something different. I mean, how is that not just like more of the game then? How is it?
It kind of is what it is. Like the game says it's over and credits roll, and then the game basically has a message like, hey, You're really meant to play it a couple more times. Like from what I said, I don't think you really beat the game until you do it like at least 3 times or so.
Right, and then there's I understand like 5 times is kind of how you really get to the end.
Yeah, 5 times or so, and then there's even this kind of fun thing where like there are like all these other endings in the game that are almost kind of just like joke ones. Like you accidentally, like you kill an important character, and it'll be like a text window will come up, like, and then nothing happened because you killed that character at the end. Then like it'll literally like scroll through the credits, like, and then just kind of put you back where you were.
Yeah,
it's just basically like a funny game over screen.
Yeah, so there's like 26 endings, but a lot of the endings are that kind of stuff where it's sort of really quick.
Think 5 of them are like important.
The real stuff. I think that's really clever. It reminds me.
It's really clever. It's really cool.
It reminds me of like taking something like the one-hit kills from Resident Evil 4, where you could like poke like the giant crocodile thing or whatever it was to make it eat you and stuff. If they had taken that to the extreme, just said now the story's over, and given you like a kind of a silly ending or whatever, that's kind of what this sounds like. So yeah, this is still a game that I really know that I have to play soon.
I think you'll like it a lot.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm loving it.
Yeah, so it's one
it's just insane how many games I've played this year that I just I love, like straight up can use that word.
Yeah, I mean we've said this on past episodes, but I'm still feeling like more than ever 2017 is just the year where bad games are over. Something happened where everyone realized like, oh yeah, we don't have to just put out crap. We can actually complete these games and turn out something incredible, and everyone's doing that. So yeah, I'm pretty excited. It's even kind of happening. I think like it's not just like AAA games or games from Japanese publishers, which they're having a really good year. Indie games are also doing really well. I think one of the best examples is one that's really popular on Steam right now, Dead Cells. I've just started playing this. Have you seen or played or tried any of this at all?
Now, which one is this?
Okay.
Is this the Metroidvania that people are talking about, or is that a different one?
It's the Metroidvania roguelite game. So I never play. I think I played like maybe a half hour of Rogue Legacy, and I always kind of intended to go back and play more.
I liked Rogue Legacy a lot. So this is kind of like Rogue Legacy because I was a big fan of that.
So I hear a lot of comparisons to Rogue Legacy. Like I said, I hadn't played enough Rogue Legacy to know if this compares to that. I understand that the format is very similar. So basically what you're a bunch of like dead cells, essentially, as the title implies. And the first thing you do is you take over this suit of armor. And you've clearly been here before. You don't know what happened, but you just need to explore this castle, sort of Metroidvania, Castlevania style environment, and go as far as you can. And as you are collecting items, you can pick up almost any item at any time, but it's very random. The drops are very random. But what you could do is you can collect permanent upgrades, and these upgrades, if you spend your souls on them, or cells, I think they call them, to purchase these upgrades, the next time you die, you will more likely find a more powerful version of a lot of these weapons. And the weapons are very cool. The combat's very interesting. But there's this permanent sense of progression. When you do die, however, it is
that's very Rogue Legacy,
right? And
good.
And the Castlevania, the Metroidvania environment does change. It is random, but it doesn't feel random. It's procedurally generated. There's a difference between procedures and random, and it doesn't have that randomness element to it, which I appreciate. It does feel deliberate. Now. Go ahead and ask your question. No, ask your question.
Well,
get to other stuff.
And this is an early access game still, right?
Yeah, it's like $16, I think, right now. I think they were selling it for $14 for a little while. Early access, they say it's about 80% done, and I believe it just because how it's really polished. So it's got this 16-bit, 32-bit visual style. Your main character's pixelated, but he's more. There's more fidelity to the animation.
It's a really nice looking pixelated look.
Yes, it is very, very cool looking. The animation feels very great, and just moving around the world, you have a double jump from the very beginning. You just feel so powerful in the way that you can get around, jumping around, and jumping right into combat from like moving around and seeing the sword, and you know how the sword's going to work because you've used it a lot, and you've tried it a lot. So you do your double jump, you see some enemies down there, you do your sword attack immediately, you roll to avoid their attack, you do some more attacks. It just looks and feels so really like polished, I think is the word. So I'm impressed that this is an early access game, that it's another roguelite that I thought, you feel like that genre is getting played out. But this one,
you think it would, but man, those games are just always so fun. They always work so well with indie developers for some reason. Like it seems to be a genre that AAA people don't touch at all anymore. But there's always these great indie games. I know the one that what I thought this was at first when you're talking about it is Hollow Knight, which is another one from this year that everyone's talking about a lot.
Is Flint Hook also a roguelite? Flint Hook's another one people talk about.
I don't know about Flint Hook.
It's like Bionic Commando.
Owlboy is one.
Okay, yeah, there's a ton of them.
Owlboy is like another one. That was last year, and they just announced that one for Switch. And that's kind of my feelings on this Dead Cells game is, this sounds really cool. I'm going to wait for it to come on Switch, because it just sounds like something that, like these Metroidvania games are make so much sense on that platform. I've already played that Wonder Boy remake. It was just so nice to play that game on there.
Yep, and if this was on the Switch, I don't want to say that every time one of these games happens, but really that's going to be how I feel every time I play one of these games. Where yes, if this was on the Switch, I would be playing it nonstop.
Yeah. Indie platformers should be on the Switch. If you're making one, I feel like you just got to make that happen. And like I said, they said Owlboy is happening. I think Hollow Knight is happening. I don't know if it's super official. I think they just said they wanted to, which I guess everybody would say they would want to. But yeah, I think these games just make sense there.
Yeah, I don't. There's not too much else to say about it other than I really am enjoying it. I could see why, when you watch video of it, if you see someone on YouTube or Twitch playing this game, why a lot of people are gonna be like, "Oh, it's $14 right now. I'm gonna go out. I'm gonna buy it right now and shoot it to the top of the Steam charts." It does have that distinct visual style, and it has the gameplay to match. I've been really impressed with it. The combat is very varied. I think that's the last thing I would say about it, is that you get into a lot of situations with a lot of different kind of opponents, and they have a similar look. Some of them do end up looking quite a bit different, but a lot of them look similar. But they all play very differently, so you're never getting into stale combat. At least so far, I've played a couple hours, but you're not getting into stale combat encounters where you're doing the same thing over and over. You're always going to have to think, and that's very. I find that very exciting, and it keeps me wanting to go back and doing another run and another run. Mike, speaking of combat, Injustice 2, you've been playing that. This is one that I'm trying to hold myself off from buying because I really want to play through the story mode. I think I'm going to go to a Redbox and actually rent this game.
It is a good Redbox game because I think for a lot of people that is the experience. I think having people over playing Injustice 2, that's fine, and it does that very competently. But the cool thing about all these NetherRealm fighting games, it's the same people who do the Mortal Kombat. It's something that started with Mortal Kombat, that reboot in, 2009, 2011 or something like that, where they just had these really cinematic story modes. And it's just it tells a full story of all these different characters. And you kind of you start off as one character and it's told from their perspective, and you maybe fight 4 battles that are framed around the story. Then it jumps to a different character. Now you're playing as them. Right. So it's this really cool way to try out a lot of the characters. And again, there is this full-on campaign. It's not we were so used to in fighting games the story mode just being the arcade mode basically, right? Where you've picked a character, you fought through AI opponents, and maybe in front of or at the end of some of them there'd be text boxes saying some things, and that was about it. The video went off. Is that okay?
Yes, it is. I'm sorry. I'm trying to save bandwidth on my side. Sorry.
That's okay. I was scared for it.
Yeah, I know. I figured that would. I was debating whether or not to tell you something, but yeah, we're gonna.
I was
I'll just risk it. But yeah, so I mean, the game. Yeah, so what you just described, and they've done this in a lot of the Mortal Kombat games, like you were saying, where you jump around from character to character, and you get this story. It's something that I always doubted would be very appealing, even when I heard people continually expressing love for Mortal Kombat 8 and 9. And X or whatever they call it in the first Injustice. But the more that I keep hearing people really getting into these games, especially the story mode, and the more I see visuals of how good these characters look, I'm really, this is what's making me want to go out and actually play it. So I'm wondering, is the story as compelling as a lot of people make it sound? Is it just sort of a fun popcorn game, which is still okay? Which is still okay.
It's kind of fun. It's kind of fun in a popcorn way, but it's entertaining. It's cool, and it does neat stuff. So the whole thing with Injustice is it takes place in this alternate universe where Superman basically went crazy and became like the ultimate villain. That's sort of the universe, and that was kind of the story of the first game. And it kind of had this thing too, where like people from the regular DC universe are coming in and trying to like help, basically. And the cool thing about this one is it's just all this Injustice universe, which kind of works better. It's a little less convoluted. And again, a lot of the fun is kind of just seeing like these, like, hey, Superman's evil and who is aligned with him and whatnot. Then so like the story is cool. It's fun. It's more interesting than Batman versus Superman or something like that.
Low bar, but still, it's nice that it clears that one. Yeah,
right. The really interesting thing this time around is the facial animations that they somehow
it's eye-catching, especially on GIFs and like quick little videos on Twitter and stuff.
I'll tell you what, though, you see it in a GIF, and at first you're kind of like, oh, that's almost kind of weird.
Yeah, that's what this is. This was going to be my question. Is it weird?
No, when you're playing it in the game, so cool. It just looks fantastic. It looks so good. It's distracting, and only that it looks good. Not in that it's like some kind of uncanny valley thing or what have you. In fact, like with this, like action sequences look better in something like Injustice 2 than they do in a movie. Because in a movie, it's Superman fighting Batman. It's ultimately like an actor turning into a CG character flying around all of a sudden. Right. This, here's the character model, and it's presented that way throughout the. It's kind of like how stuff works better in like CG movies sometimes, right? Because there's more consistency. There's more consistency here, And this obviously just turns into an actual fight. And even those still have these cool cinematic moments. But yeah, like, it's kind of like how when L.A. Noire happened, we're like, oh, that's how faces are going to kind of look now. And then it didn't really happen like that. This is like that first game since then to have that much, like, range. And in fact, sometimes it's even like, I feel like the voice actors aren't matching the quality. And like a voice line will not be delivered very intensely, but like the face is conveying all this extra emotion that I feel like, oh man, the animator is actually doing more work here than the actors.
I really love that. So you like the single player. Has this been one of the games that's maybe taken time away from Tetris, Puyo Puyo Tetris and stuff like that when you have friends over? For like
no, I haven't played it. I haven't really played it like with friends like that. Really, a lot of it is like fighting games, especially. It can be such a barrier of entry for. It's one of the worst genres to play against somebody who knows a lot more about what they're doing than you, right? Like if I could play, Call of Duty with you, and that's fine. It doesn't matter how much better I am than you, in a way. Even a MOBA or something like that. If I'm playing you one-on-one in a fighting game, there's really no way to like make it enjoyable for you except for me to like basically have less fun myself on purpose because I'm going, I'm like trying to teach you or I'm like trying not to like, beat you too badly and stuff like that. It's not like I'm that good, but there are so many tiers to fighting game prowess, and it's like you can't be on this tier and have fun playing with somebody on this tier, let alone like this tier or than that tier.
It's completely incompatible. I mean, well, they do.
That's just a problem with the genre, in a way, I guess.
They do try to make some leaps towards fixing that. There's equipment, and you can make your character more powerful by attaching certain add-ons and stuff. And I guess you could set it up so that there's also a handicap that makes those attachments more powerful. So someone who isn't as good maybe has more health or something.
Yeah, you always had a thing.
But yeah,
I like fighting games. It's just like the ones that I play with my friends, it's always Street Fighter because people are used to Street Fighter and Smash Bros. Partly because I've had like a group of friends I've been playing the Smash Bros. Games with for like 15 years now.
Yeah, you're not alone.
Or whatever.
Well, Smash Bros. Is probably even more, everyone knows it than Street Fighter at this point.
And this is, you have those two archetypes, and this is the Mortal Kombat archetype, which people get. But, I don't know. For some reason, it's never a thing like, let's, 3 times this week come over and play Mortal Kombat.
Right, yeah.
I think that's why it's good they have this campaign mode, because it gives you a reason to care about the game, even if you don't care about that stuff.
Right, and I think this is the one that's finally going to convince me to say it's okay to do that. It's okay to just care about that campaign, because they are doing some interesting stuff, and it looks phenomenal.
Now, and the other interesting thing about the game, real quick, is that it just has straight-up loot boxes like Overwatch style.
Right, yeah, this is the equipment I was talking about, yeah. So
yeah, and I mean, that's all it's like, it has like a practical effect, but almost even more importantly, I think for a lot of people, is that it is cosmetic. You can get like the different outfits for characters, which works really well for something like a superhero game, because all these characters have had all these different outfits, right? So yeah, sure. Make loot boxes for that.
Yeah. I downloaded it on mobile and I played it for like half a second before I saw that the all the cutscenes they were just text, and so I'm like, well, I'm not going to play through this story and get it all ruined and not have.
I want to go for that mobile.
But it made me realize it's like this is maybe the first time. I know that they've had Injustice on mobile and Injustice on the console at the same time before, but I don't know if they've launched at the exact same time.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think they've done the same thing with Mortal Kombat with these mobile versions.
Yeah, maybe they've launched them at the same time, but it's like this is like the one series, at least, or the one developer that really gets just how different these audiences are, and that you can release a $60 packaged Injustice 2 and have it have loot boxes inside of it, and it's going to be just fine, even if there's a free-to-play mobile version, because those audiences just, I mean, yes, I play mobile games a little bit, but I'm looking for something very different than someone who doesn't own a console and doesn't play PC games. So, I don't know. It makes me, I want to like think about that more and explore that more and maybe see what other developers do in the future with this. But for now, it's interesting to see that at least NetherRealm sees this and it's working for them. Okay, Mike, I think I'm going to talk about Danger Zone now. This is the new Crash Mode game from the developers they founded Criterion. Now they work at Three Fields Entertainment. They founded that studio. They did Dangerous Golf, which I didn't like very much. It was kind of I
think a lot of people didn't like it.
It was half baked. It just didn't. It didn't have a lot of oomph when you hit a golf ball into a bunch of glass or whatever. You would expect the camera to like pan around and flip and make everything seem really exciting, and it was really dull. And then you also didn't really understand how you were supposed to improve your score. It was half baked. Danger Zone, however, is incredible. It is so good. It is easily as good as the Burnout Crash mode in Burnout 3 Takedown, I think it was.
Which was kind of a famous thing.
Way back on Xbox and PlayStation 2, forever ago now. And we haven't had I think they tried to make a mobile version of it, and it just wasn't the same thing. And in the driving racing car genre, we haven't really had this any game really come in and fill the gap left by Burnout. Burnout Paradise was a huge thing for a moderately sized audience of people, and it wasn't. Apparently, that's not good enough for EA. EA's like, we're going to focus instead on Need for Speed, and we're going to take Criterion, put them on that. We're going to make Ghost games, focus them 100% on Need for Speed games because they sell better. And Criterion sort of shriveled up, and they created this Three Fields Entertainment, and now we are left with pretty much just Forza Horizon and Need for Speed, and the simulation.
The Crew 2.
Yeah, the Crew. Yeah. Oh my God, yeah, they're making Crew 2. But
they sure are.
None of these games feel, and I love Forza.
They don't scratch that.
Yeah, Forza Horizon 3 is a great game, but it's not Burnout. It doesn't feel like Burnout. It's a different thing. And when you go back and you play something like Danger Zone, and it has that feel, and by that I mean when you slam the car into another car to cause huge chain reactions, which is the point of the game, to cause as much damage as possible. That feeling of still having the aftertouch control on the car, so you can move it into another thing to cause another chain reaction, and the way the camera slows down to give you time to like adjust and aim and figure out where you should go next, and building up combos to the point where you can then get a smash breaker and cause an explosion and get even more damage and chain reactions. It's so satisfying. It's so kind of what I want in a video game. It reminds me of this genre like Trials and Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, where you're just like you're throwing yourself at the physics of this world over and over, trying to maximize and squeeze out and eke out every last point from every last opportunity, because you begin to like see the world and the way it works. And you just start the level over and over and drive this car into a pile of other cars over and over. I had a lot of fun with it. It's not out yet. I think it comes out later this week. Maybe it's next week, May 30th. And it's going to be cheap. I think it's going to be like $13. And they don't have a ton of content, which I think is the reason that's the case. And I've only played like the first third. I think they're going to unlock the rest for us later. I just played a preview version. But I got to a point where I was playing levels like 40, 50 times, because there was a few other people playing, and I had a leaderboard, and I could see who was. I knew some of the people who were playing, and I was trying to beat them, and I'm like, man, I'm going to get this top score. And I got the top score on a bunch of the levels. And yeah, it just feels so good. It's. I didn't realize. I always thought like, okay, crash mode that probably wouldn't work anymore. I probably wouldn't want it, and I was so wrong. This is absolutely what I
Yeah,
wanted.
just like you're saying, but I realized how much I missed that because I loved Burnout 3 in that crash mode, and yeah, and there really hasn't been something like the closest I've had to something like that was Split Second, that Xbox
Yeah,
360 racing game
didn't
that
go anywhere.
people did not
Right.
care nearly enough about because it was fantastic.
Yeah.
But even that was still a racing game, whereas this is like full on that crash
Yeah.
stuff, and yeah, that sounds great.
Yeah, and it makes me want them to like take the engine that they've built here, which I think it's Unreal, but the racing engine and the crashing engine, and bring it back into a racing game, which is Burnout was always both, and not always both because Burnout Paradise didn't have a crash mode.
That was kind of like Burnout Paradise was a really cool game in different ways, but I always
Yes.
was kind of bummed how less crashy it was
Same here.
in general.
And it served it served a different purpose, very cool in its own way. But that crash mode being absent was always kind of it always rubbed me the wrong way, and it never felt complete for me as a Burnout game. So yeah, I would love to see this game just do really well to the point where the developers can say, okay, yeah, now we're going to take some of this money, reinvest in the game, and here's like another $10, $13 pack where like now you can go ahead and race with other people on tracks and cause the same sort of explosions. Yeah, because they nailed it. I'm really happy with it. So yeah, it's a game that if anyone that likes those crash modes, they'll have to try this one. Last game I talk about a lot.
God, you're talking, man. This reminds me back when AJ wouldn't like stop talking about like Rock Band every week or something.
Well, I'm only going. This is going to be real quick. Just PUBG. I'm at a point with it. PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, which I'm on a first name basis with, or nickname. I'm going to call it PUBG
Apparently.
now. Yeah,
PUBG.
yeah. I'm at a point where I'm going to say to myself, I'm not going to play it anymore until they fix some of the lag. It's gotten really out of hand. I'd say like 90% of the time, 9 out of 10 games, literally, I'm dealing with rubber banding. The jumping around where I'm trying to go in a door and my character's like flinging left and right.
It must be pretty difficult for this like tiny little game to get as much attention as it's getting. It's like the poor thing.
Yep, and it's like I mean, even if they were expecting to sell well, there's no way they could have been expecting 2 million in sales, and it's probably getting close to 3 million by now. I wouldn't be surprised. So yeah, there's a lot of people playing, and I'm sure like the reason that I'm probably just in a raw place for server selection. Denver's probably maybe they favor the West Coast, or they favor the East Coast, or maybe they favor Texas, and maybe I'm in Denver and that, so I'm getting left behind sometimes. But they are yeah. I mean, I deserve it. I've led a terrible life. So, but they've basically said that they're going to fix the lag. That's one of their primary things. They've also fixed a thing where the aiming was off from where the barrel was actually looking, which is a really terrible thing. Actually,
it's a bit of a problem.
Yeah, so they're fixing that. That's coming out this week. So I'm kind of like, I need to just step away so I quit getting so frustrated with the game, and I'll come back and play it some more. Although,
I'm telling you, man, I'm going to have a lot of fun with that game in like a year or so. A year might even be generous with some of these early access games, but someday, man.
I don't know. If there's another big, like, huge update where maybe they have a new map, I might rope you in again and make you play, but we'll see. Until then, for sure. Okay, yeah, that does it for the games we've been playing. We're going to hop into the news real quick. We'll do this pretty quick. Then, we'll have a break and come back, and we're going to talk about... Oh, I just lost Mike in the video.
I'm here.
You're still... Okay, well, you're still in the podcast, the cast thing, but you're not in the video. But that's fine. We can just keep going. All right, so we're going to jump into the news. First things first. Red Dead Redemption 2 is now coming out in spring 2018. Are you at all surprised by this?
A little, I guess. I don't know. It's like I don't follow Rockstar close enough to know like how usual delays like this are because I don't care that much about Grand Theft Auto. But this is a pretty big game. We haven't heard a whole lot about it since announcement, which seemed kind of normal-ish because you figured they were waiting until E3. That's kind of my question now. It's like, are we not going to be seeing as much of this game at this E3 as we kind of all counted on? Maybe.
I wonder if that's what this means.
Yeah.
Rockstar doesn't usually have a lot of presence at E3. I think that's what happens. So I guess we shouldn't be expecting it anyhow. But I'm not surprised at all. I mean, their games always take forever. They always get delayed. Saying fall 2017 is just with the kind of the trailer that they had, and not a huge like game reveal with a lot of gameplay and stuff. It always felt ambitious and like it was never going to happen. So this doesn't surprise me. I'm sure it'll still be great, but honestly, it's like, okay, thank God it's that not coming out this year, because maybe I can actually get some other games finished
right
before the end of 2017, before like this causes the same sort of domino effect in 2018.
It was gonna be one of, like, if not, like the big game this fall. So
yeah,
it's kind of a hit in a way, but we'll see.
Yep, we'll see what happens now. Kind of
other things will take those spots.
Yeah, for sure. Destiny 2 had a big reveal last week. We had a lot of coverage on it. It's going to be coming to Blizzard's Battle.net, whatever they call it now, the Blizzard app.
Yeah.
And it won't be using dedicated servers on the PC. It's all, of course, it's also coming to PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. Mike, how are you feeling about Destiny? I think you wrote something about how it has you excited. So what is that?
It does. I think it looks just like some people are saying, oh, it looks like Destiny 1.5. I dispute that a bit, and I get that, because like they're saying like, oh, look, the UI looks the same, the engine looks the same, but all that stuff was never the problem with Destiny, anyways. Like the whole problem with Destiny was just that it was kind of boring and dreary and just not very exciting. And just the things you see already, like, oh, there's actually a story with like a simple plot and a bad guy. That's nice. Just the locations that they show, they all look really interesting. Whereas like in Destiny 1, the locations were Russia, which like abandoned Russia, which was kind of, again, it was like I was playing PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds. It's like that look again. Like, okay, cool. And you went to the moon, and it was the moon, all right, just not very exciting. And now you're going to, like, Titan, and it's this, like, weird place built on this methane ocean, and you're going to Io, and it's another, gas giant moon planet that's been terraformed. It looks really alien and really weird. So that stuff specifically looks pretty cool.
So it's, but it's so it's like it's the story. It's the fact that they are doing maybe more varied environments. Is there anything about
the clan stuff and whatnot? Like the fact that like they're actually going to have a clan support and that you can do raids even if you're.
Cool.
There is there's some form of raid matchmaking, even though they won't call it that, but it's basically that. Where as long as like I think like two people who are in a guild together can start up like a search or like a queue to a room basically to get more people in for who aren't in the guild. So I think that's cool.
So like quality of life stuff, story, varied environments. Are you excited because maybe they worked out their content pipeline and there will be more regular content updates? Is that something that bothered you about Destiny 1?
I'll tell you what, it is a problem. I don't know if that's suddenly fixed. Because I feel like the guys they've been racing to make all this content since that game came out.
That was always the story though, is that the first game had such trouble getting regular content out because all the tools were fucked up. They took forever. Like you would go and try to have something ready and try to test it out, but you'd have to render it overnight for it to be ready the next day to try it out. So they couldn't make quick iterations. And if they fix the tools, which my understanding is that was the goal of Destiny 2 and making this whole new game. So let's just go on the assumption that they did fix that.
That'd be nice.
Is that like a game changer for you as a sequel? Is that enough for you to be like, yeah, this is exciting?
It will be exciting if it's bundled with some kind of better monetization plan. They're definitely like that first year Destiny 1 with the season pass for those two little expansions was kind of awful.
Yeah, I don't think they'll do that again, but who knows?
No, I really hope. Like, I'm not so naive to think that they'll just give all the content for free. They're not. I wish they would. I think it'd be better for the game.
Wouldn't it be better if they did like a World of Warcraft style where they do those smaller updates for free, call it an update, and then they do some, and then do the raids as the download, like the raids as the pillar. Where
even the raids are often like the free updates.
Yeah, but
it's hard to say because like that's always kind of the understanding when you buy an extension of World of Warcraft is that you're buying access to content, even though there's a monthly subscription, so it's different. But you're buying access to content for a couple years basically. And Destiny, you don't even really know what you're getting. You're basically getting what's in that box, and then that's it.
Yeah, I think that's one of the big things. You don't know what you're getting, and a lot of people do know what they're getting. They're happy with what they got originally. Destiny 2 is going to be just fine for them. Although I do hear some rumblings that, oh, this is just Destiny 1.5, which I don't know what that means.
Right. I mean, yeah, like there's a lot of sequels that look like their predecessor, and they're not necessarily 1.5.
I mean, but I think people are just like, no, this is a disappointing sequel. Like there's a difference there, the distinction they're making that I
think some people had out of control expectations that like this was going to be like a World of Warcraft size like thing all of a sudden now.
Yeah, and
which was not going to happen.
It was never going to happen. So yeah, I think you're right. That's where a lot of that's coming from. But basically, what you laid out there, I think that's you touched on a lot of the things, a lot of the complaints that I would hear from Destiny players, that all the story was buried in the Grimoire cards, and now it's going to be
no Grimoire cards.
That's such a smart thing. I mean, that's not smart. It's like table stakes. You have to do that.
Yeah.
But still, like the fact that they are doing it, they recognize it, they're hitting all these things. I think Destiny 2 seems like it's on the right track.
I mean, some of my like as much as I always criticize Destiny 1, especially the vanilla version of that game, I had fun playing it, and it was a fun thing to play with my friends. And it was hard to get them. It was hard even to get them into Taken King. Only AJ came back to me out of like the 5 or 6 people I was playing with. And then with that second expansion, like the one last year came out, like no one came back.
Right.
So at least this is like, everyone's going to be playing this game again. It's going to be fun. I even have some friends who are interested in it for the first time because of the PC aspect. So I think it'll be interesting. I mean, there isn't anybody who really is doing like a AAA shooter MMO.
Right.
It's like, it's still, even after all this time, kind of like this unexplored space, or a space that nobody's really done very well.
Ubisoft, kind of the Division is on that.
And the Division was basically just a worse, even like a worse version of Destiny. So whatever.
And then there's the rumor BioWare is doing something similar. We'll see how that turns out. But I think the path that you described there, where you had your friends falling off of the Destiny expansions, is the reason why they made Destiny 2 and didn't just keep working on Destiny, even beyond anything else. They needed a reason to get people back in at ground zero, and that was it. So, yeah. Okay, moving on. Splatoon 2 single-player trailer. I just wanted to kind of bring this up because, hey, single-player confirmed for Splatoon 2, which I don't think it was guaranteed it was in the game before this trailer, right?
No, but I'm very happy because I was a big fan of Splatoon 1's single player, and like as soon as this trailer came out, I finally heard people being like, "Yeah, Splatoon 1 actually had really good single player." I'm glad it's back in this.
You were definitely one of the champions of that. It was a big part of your review when you wrote it. I saw other people really liking it, but yeah, I liked it too. I never finished it. I think I got up to the last part of it, the last boss or the last level.
I actually had a really good
final boss. I might actually try to go back and beat that now. But so yeah, I'm happy about this. This is good. Splatoon, deservedly known for its multiplayer, a very good multiplayer game. But that single player campaign didn't get the respect it deserves. So I'm glad Nintendo wasn't like, oh, we don't even need it, because I think they do. They do need it.
I think it helps that package.
You need something to especially you need something to play when you're traveling with a Switch and you don't have an internet connection, which I think a lot of people will be in that situation. Although I'm totally just going to tether my shit to my phone. You don't want to talk about South Park? It's let's skip this one.
Yeah, well, South Park game's been delayed again.
Yeah, totally. But I just think it's funny. You always hear that Matt and Trey kept delaying the first game because they kept writing new stuff, and I just wonder if that's what's happening here. But yeah, we don't have to say much more beyond that. So Google had a thing last week as well. They announced a standalone VR headset that doesn't need a phone, it doesn't need a computer, and it's a new version of the HTC Vive that they're making with HTC. Is this something that appeals to you in any way?
A little bit. I mean, I don't have any kind of VR that I own. This is and I don't really have I don't know what the word is, stamina to do really long-term VR experiences. Yeah. So the kind of things I almost like are these things I do on Google Daydream or Samsung Gear, where it's like, hey, you're in a scene from Harry Potter for 5 minutes. It's more of a promotional tool than anything. But that's what I kind of enjoy from VR right now, at least. But I use a iPhone, so I can't use a phone with either of these things.
Right. So
hey, yeah, maybe a couple $100 I get a random standalone Google Daydream thing. I don't know if that would really be worth it, but it's interesting. It's intriguing.
It definitely I think gets to a point where I think some people might reconsider. If it's wire, it would be wireless. It has the tracking, the room tracking, because it's inside out. It has a bunch of sensors. Whereas the Vive currently, the one I have, you need these little satellite devices up in your room to track where you are. This eliminates a lot of these other extras and expenses, and that makes it, I think, a little bit of a reboot for VR. Depending on how well it works, how pretty the games are, if it's just as functional and supports all the same content, but we'll see.
I mean, it is just cool that we are getting a standalone wireless VR device.
It's something we always needed. It's something that always had to happen if this was really going to kind of get to where it needs to go. You can't connect it to your computer forever unless it's going to be a wireless signal. But then at that point, why not just figure out the next step of really just making it self-contained? Sonic Forces custom hero trailer. I added this one because I think and I said this to you, I think I said it on Twitter, it's indicative of, I think, of where Sega is at with its Sonic franchise. It has Sonic Mania coming out, which is like this throwback made by a super fan of Sonic that looks like 16-bit Sonic games, and it's like a remix of all those. It looks really cool. And then there's Sonic Forces, which is a 3D side-scrolling Sonic, I think, aimed at either younger kids or the people on DeviantArt who make their own Sonic OCs.
I mean, yeah, there's always been this very strangely big community of people who make their own Sonic characters. And now you can literally do that and play as them. And so I actually saw this a while ago when I visited Sega. This mode specifically, where you can make a character. Wasn't able to talk about it for a while for obvious reasons, and it is really neat. It's I even messed around with the character creator a bit, and it's it's kind of fun. You make your own character. And the neat thing is there's basically 3 play modes in this game as opposed to Sonic Generations, where you had the modern Sonic, then you had the classic Sonic that played more like the Genesis games. And this the whole shtick here is you have this kind of grappling hook, and you have there's some other thing you had. I forget, it was a gun or something or another, or they has a rocket jump for a double jump or something like that. So it's not just you're playing through those same levels as this character. They have their own levels. Huh. It's kind of, and it's a part of the campaign, right? You go between these 3 different play styles. So, and I think it's neat. I think it could be pretty fun.
Yeah, it definitely could still be fun, but I'm hesitant to get a lot of hope up for Sonic games that aren't Sonic Mania. I don't know why I'm getting excited.
I mean, I'll tell you what, all my hopes and dreams are really with Sonic Mania ultimately. Right. But I think Sonic Forces is not going to be bad.
Yeah,
it's going to be fun.
And I don't necessarily, I probably sound dismissive, but I don't think it's a bad thing that Sega recognizes that there are these 2 different audiences of Sonic fans, and that it's catering to the one that is very obsessive about making their own characters. And
well, I don't know if catering's. I mean, there are those people. I don't think there's enough of them to sell a video game to. I think they recognize
it's more than other video games. Though. It's more than any other game franchise that
sure.
that has this community that are all out there designing their own Sonic characters.
But I think they realize that those people will like that. But I think they realize everybody will like it. I never drew my own Sonic character, but when you make one, that's fun. That's a neat thing. It makes sense.
Yeah, you're right. Okay, so it does both. It serves the one audience while also serving, a broader audience as well at the same time. But yeah, I just think it sort of shows this dichotomy that I think I was maybe a little bit more dramatic about it when I said it was going to define the future of Sonic the Hedgehog. But both these things could continue to exist at the same time. One's not going to eliminate the other. Although I think I still will be a little disappointed if Sonic Forces ends up outselling Sonic Mania.
Yeah, right. It will be interesting to see if the things I feel about Sonic Mania are just kind of something in my head and not maybe a wider thing like I hope it is.
I just think there's a lot of kids, who grew up on Sonic now at this point who are, they prefer 3D Pixar style movies, and they're going to prefer the 3D style art in a Sonic Forces kind of game. And that's fine. They're kids. They're allowed to like what they like.
They should like what I like, because I was right.
I know.
My generation had it all.
You better believe that's what my kid's going to be like. She's going to start with the NES.
Well, that never backfires.
Yeah, no, of course not. Finally, Far Cry 5 is set in Montana, and Ubisoft is revealing it on Friday.
So it's not cowboys. It's like
it's not
just
like
Montana.
old Western. There are still cowboys in Montana at this point, is my understanding. Although I don't know if they deal with any. I don't know if they deal with any cows. Yeah,
like it's far off.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I've never been there. I haven't done the research, Mike. I don't know.
Montana.
Yeah.
All right.
We'll
see. I'm still not feeling much about this.
I really. Tell you what, though, bringing this series into America, I think has some cool implications about, especially modern day America. Has some cool implications about what they could do, what the themes could be like.
I guess so, but I get that in a way, but at the same time, one of the things that I thought the series had going for it was it's like kind of travelogue aspect, like in like Nepal this time.
But I mean they definitely done that, and I think there is and I think this is especially true outside of America, but we're guilty of this inside America. We forget sometimes how big this country is, and we forget that it's not just New York City and L.A. and the desert of like Nevada or whatever. Like there's a lot going on in weird corners of this country, and Montana. Like you're probably not going to be in the part of Montana that has Walmarts. Like you're probably not going to be like,
right.
Like instead of hunting, I'm going to go in the Walmart and like go buy all the the gear I need to make something. No, you're going to be out in the mountains doing stuff, and there's going to be backwoods people that you're going to be fighting against, and I don't know, it could be cool. We'll see. We'll know more Friday. Yeah. We'll see. Okay, Mike, I think we should probably head into the break, and then we'll go ahead and talk about Sony's E3. Real quick, do you need to like take a real break? Doesn't this need to be a little?
Nah, I'm good. Let's do it.
Okay, cool. All right, all right, everybody. We will be right back after these messages from your boys, Mike and Jeff.
I like that I've taken enough pee breaks now that you like ask me if I need to go.
Yeah, tell me. It's okay. You can tell me.
Oh God.
All right, Mike. I want to learn how to make video games real good. I want to do real good games.
Oh, man.
And I don't know how to do it. What should I do?
You should go to our sponsors thingy that you know more about than I do.
That sponsors thingy. Oh, boy. Oh, boy, am I excited about that sponsors thingy. Software.intel.com/gamedev. This is Intel's, basically their game developer resource page. This a program where they will help you make games by providing you first-hand knowledge about how to get the most from PC components, consoles, everything. They want to help you make the best game possible. Again, that's software.intel.com/gamedev. They're going to make you make games good. The good games are going to come from you after you go to Intel, Mike. Or is it? No, I'm the one making games this time, not you.
Yeah, remember I said I wasn't interested last week.
Yeah, and you ruined the whole fiction that we've set up. We've built this entire lore, and you just threw it out the
lore.
You threw it out the window like it meant nothing.
The Decides universe.
Yeah. Again, one more time. That's software.intel.com/gamedev. They're going to help you make the game good. I think that's not in the copy. I'm just decided that's going to be their motto. Make the game good. You don't like it?
No, I like it. I'm sorry, I read it. I didn't know that I disagreed with it. I'm multitasking.
All right.
I thought you couldn't see me. I didn't know my face came.
No, I can see you.
No, good.
And we're back. Oh no, the
Hey.
music's still. Oh no.
Well, yeah, good job.
See, I messed it up. Okay. I mean, I love doing this podcast live. That's good stuff. Mike, Sony at E3. Are they just going to be a bunch of trailers over again, like just the last couple of years?
Yeah, they'll have some gameplay, like people on stage playing games. I think they found their shtick. I don't think they're going to be talking about like. That wasn't last year. What was that year where they talked about their superhero TV show for too long?
That was 2013. That was
Yeah, that was like when they were like still kind of Then they figured it out since then.
Was that 2013? Because that was, or was it 2014? It was one of the years.
I think it might have been 2014.
It was one of the years where like
it seems too early.
Had Microsoft done the same thing, Microsoft would have been like made fun of it nonstop.
People did not give them enough crap for that awful, very long.
It was very glossed over. They'd be like, "Oh, like they care more about TV shows than video games, and this is for gamers." Yes, but okay. that aside, I'm still excited for Sony for a couple of games in particular. I think top of the line or top of that roster is God of War, the reboot.
Yeah.
Do you think that?
Needed.
Do you think that has like Breath of the Wild potential in terms of redefining that series?
Well, it's hard to say because it's not as important a series, right? So it can't have quite as much potential in some weird intrinsic way. But I think so. Like, I think it can in a way that this could be like the best God of War, and this could be the way that these games should be from now on.
Right. Yeah.
It's definitely super, super smart. Instead of doing a God of War 4, like what they did with Gears of War, to just be like, this is going to just be something like real different, like and familiar in ways, but it's just rethinking that whole series instead of being more shouting and what have you. And it's still violent and things like that. It just seems more thoughtful and cool and different and interesting. Yeah, I'm just everything I saw about that game last year just had me so excited. And the last thing I thought I was going to be excited about was a new God of War game.
Yep, same. And that's kind of what has me excited is it came out of nowhere last year, and I mean that's going to make it maybe a little bit more difficult to be surprising this year. But I have faith that game could still pull it off. Another game that I'm excited about is Spider-Man.
Yeah.
I want to see what Sony's doing with this. I like that Spider-Man 2, the movie video game, whatever it was. Again, that's another like PS2 era game. So a long time ago now. But it looks pretty, and I'm into Spider-Man. I want to see what they're going to be doing with this.
Yeah.
So
it's a good studio to be making.
Yeah, it's Sucker Punch, right? Yes, yeah. They've made some great games, and especially that.
Wait a second. Was it Sucker Punch or was it the other ones?
No, I can't remember. Hang on.
No, it wasn't Sucker Punch. It's the other one. Wait, so Sly Cooper makes Sucker Punch. Who's the one who made Infamous? It's the Infamous people, I think.
I can't.
No, that is Sucker Punch. Ah.
Yeah, I would. No, Insomniac.
Insomniac, that's it. It's Insomniac.
Yes, God, man, I can't keep all those studios straight.
There's those three. It was Naughty Dog was like run them for a bit, then they completely went off into their own thing.
Yeah,
but Insomniac and Sucker Punch, getting those two mixed up is not.
I conflate those two all the time. Yes, you're right. I used to conflate Naughty Dog as well with those, but now not anymore. So
back when Naughty Dog was making like Jack and Daxter.
Yeah, exactly. Are there any Sony PlayStation 4 games that stand out to you? I mean, I guess we could also maybe talk about what their show will be like, maybe in a broader sense, and how they sell PS4 Pro.
Last of Us 2 is going to be a big deal. Yes. I know you're not quite as.
I don't dislike Naughty Dog games. They're just not. They don't scratch a lot of the itches that I need scratched when I play games. That's
fine, but I think for a lot of people, this will be like the big game of E3. Last of Us 1 was a very big deal.
No doubt.
I think there's a lot of. There's a lot of interest in this sequel, and Naughty Dog's just done good stuff. And they'll also show a little bit of Uncharted: Lost Legacy, not too much. It is ultimately still a standalone expansion, but they'll show something of that.
Yeah, and I'll play both of those for sure. I'll play that new Uncharted.
And then maybe more Death Stranding. We'll maybe actually see like what kind of game that's actually going to be. You think? What do you think?
We should do our own section here, or a separate section. Death Stranding, Shenmue 3, Final Fantasy 7 remake. Do any of these kind of games show up in any real way at Sony's booth, on their stage?
Real way.
I mean, I think we get updates on all of them. Maybe not Shenmue 3, but I think there's a new
Final Fantasy. They got to. When do you think we're playing Final Fantasy 7 remake?
Fuck if I know, man. Maybe never. I
just have no idea.
I think there's a very strong chance still that game never really comes out, but. Man, 2020 maybe. I mean, what is it? It's 2017. It's not coming out this year. I think there's no way it comes out in 2018. Maybe 2019. I don't know.
I think there's a way it comes out in 2018 because it is episodic, right?
That's true.
And if it turns out an episode is like 3 hours long,
all right, you're right. So we're at least going to get one episode of that game. At least one episode, probably like 2 or 3, and then maybe it'll fall off. Although, Square Enix just dropped IO Interactive, who nailed episodic gaming. Why would they want to do that with Final Fantasy 7 Remake?
I would actually not be too surprised if they
end up...
I don't know. It's hard to say because there's a good reason to do it, and there's a very good reason not to make it episodic. God. Oh, man. I bet they're having that debate inside of that publisher right now still. Right. But, okay, that's probably a game we should talk about on its own, maybe in our own... Maybe after E3, kind of catch up and talk about that game in a more deep way, especially if it doesn't show up. But for now, do you think that game, Death Stranding or Shenmue 3, kind of actually shows up in a real way beyond having trailers, like small little trailers that are just cinematics? It's hard to say because Death Stranding. It's like how many more times can we have that game show up somewhere and just show like a trailer? And
Hideo Kojima is one of the guys that can
not
do that a
many,
lot.
but as that Hideo Kojima does. In fact, he did it to death with poor Metal Gear Solid 4.
Right.
By the time that game came out, you like saw all of it. So yeah, that could just happen again. Sure.
Yeah, I think that maybe Death Stranding, maybe he's on stage with a controller and someone's playing it. Maybe. Shenmue 3, probably no way. And then Final Fantasy VII Remake, I think there's a good chance no, it won't even be mentioned. So,
how about Detroit, the Quantum Dream game? Feel that better?
No, not at all.
Because I don't.
Not at all. What are some other games that are like gonna maybe stand out?
Well, gotta stand out. Can Knack 2 stand out? Is this like the big sequel comeback story of our generation?
No, it's
No.
It's one of that Wii game that sold really well at launch and it got a sequel. Red, was it Red?
Oh, it's Red Steel.
It's Red Steel
That's a
too.
great analogy.
Yeah. That always happens. Like there are a couple of franchises that are like that. Now I'm blanking on some of the other ones, but Red Steel and Red Steel 2 is maybe the best example of how that happened.
Blink's got a sequel. There's Blinks too, man.
Man, Blinks, yeah. But was Blinks a launch game? Okay.
It was launch window, if not. It wasn't launch. It was launch window.
We're getting off topic. Okay. Is that where we are now, though, in terms of Sony PlayStation 4 game? I mean,
well, we have enough heavy hitters that are guarantees, and then the question is, and that's the stuff that will be substantial. The question now is, what are like the big surprises? Because they're going to have.
Yeah, real quick, they're going to a lot of their time, not a lot of their time, a significant portion of the time is going to be paid to their marketing sponsor, their marketing partners. So Destiny 2 will be on stage, Call of Duty will be on stage. I think Star Wars Battlefront 2, I think it's their partner as well, is going to be on the stage.
Yeah,
they're going to have a lot of those kinds of games. That, depending on how the trailers come across, those could still be exciting. I mean, I remember being excited about the Infinite Warfare trailer last year. It looked really neat. But yeah, I think you're right. It's going to come down to, and Sony knows this better than anyone at this point, is those surprises. What's left? I mean, like a first-party made Crash Bandicoot game or something?
That might still be a year away, right? Because we still have that trilogy
still not out.
happening, and that's going to be at the show in some way. I don't know if
it comes out. That comes out after E3, right? The Insane trilogy.
So I don't know if that's an on. Yeah, it's hard to say because like they're very good about having everybody working on things right now.
Right.
Is
it like it's like a PlayStation 1 reboot, like a Jet Moto or.
Yeah. Can you bring those back? Right. It's hard because like a lot of those series are either it's been too long now, right, or like the last one kind of ruined it a bit, like a Twisted Metal. Right?
Yeah. No way.
You can't do a new Twisted Metal.
No Twisted Metal.
No one you can't really do that.
And Twisted Metal is like one of their really big franchises that would have like had that impact, but not at this point anymore.
Mm-hmm. I think it could be the place where third parties choose to debut their games.
Mm-hmm.
Like if there is a Final Fantasy 16, I think it's probably still too early for that.
But if it is, it
would show up here.
Yes, totally.
It's weird that it's too early for that because it used to be they would talk about the next one.
Yeah, they talked about
before even the other one came out.
Yeah, they talked about what 15 was originally announced as, so versus 13 like forever ago. Like right. Yeah, and there was like 4 Final Fantasy games
main numbered. Like they announced 9, 10, and 11 at the same time. So before Final Fantasy 9 came out, we knew what Final Fantasy 11 was.
That was such a weird time.
It's not like that now.
No way.
And they even said that they wanted to see how Final Fantasy 15 sold before they moved on with the series, and it sold really well. So we're going to get it.
Yeah, that's totally going to be they're totally going to drill down into Final Fantasy now in a real serious way. I'm just trying to think about some other surprises.
I mean, like the one like PlayStation-y thing that I can think of is like the that Eco series, but Last Guardian kind of was such a fiasco.
Yeah, and and Ueda is not there anymore. Not really.
I think we might see a Bloodborne 2. I don't know how super exciting that is, but I think that could be happening.
Yeah, people really like that series. I think you're right. I think that. Excuse me. I think that does show up something like that. That would get a lot of people excited. But yeah,
is Little Big Planet done? People had enough of that.
Yeah,
I think that's done.
I feel like that developer's working on like VR games now for them. I bet.
Yeah. Is there going to be a lot of VR stuff? Is that going to really matter?
I don't think there'll be a lot on the stage. No. They haven't replenished that stock very often for the PlayStation VR, and it's sold out, and people wanted it. But they have the Farpoint coming out right now, and I think after that it doesn't seem like they have a ton in the pipeline after that. Maybe that means E3 is the time to reload, but I'm not sure. I think they probably aren't sure if they should be investing in it very heavily at this point. Man, there's some really good PlayStation 1 games, but I'm not sure if any of them really...
Right, no, I don't think it's going to be that. I think it's going to be... There might be a couple new things.
Yeah, I think...
I
think they might be. They're going to probably do something really out of left field, like having Shenmue 3, something like that, just kind of come out of nowhere, and Death Stranding. Yeah, but I mean, who's left to kind of do that stuff with? You need a name attached to it in some way to really get people excited.
Right. Who knows? Maybe there's some of those people out there.
Yeah.
I think there's any chance that we see Kingdom Hearts 3 in a big way at Sony's. I would like it. At some point, that the lid's got to come off that game a little bit, right?
Yeah, I mean...
Like, when they announced it, I figured it was a ways off. I didn't realize it was such a ways off.
Yeah, and it kind of, at this point, feels like it's one of those games you would say, yeah, probably this year, for like several years in a row. And now it's, I guess, yeah, I could see that. And I could see that being a big deal and getting a lot of attention. And kind of being one of the pillars that Sony uses as like the thing that's going to get it's going to be the thing that like Dan Shu, our old boss, is going to share like reaction videos of like people like watching E3 conference live and like crying like, oh, look how good Kingdom Hearts 3 looks and stuff. It has that potential. So maybe that is one of the games that they would try to get out there. Whether or not Square Enix is ready, that's a different thing.
Kingdom Hearts 3 is one of those games that there's like a fervor around,
exactly.
Right? People get, and I'm one of them, so you know. I love my Kingdom Hearts.
You all have terrible taste, but whatever. Yeah, I get it. So do I.
You know,
I eat SpaghettiOs like nonstop, so don't judge me.
All right.
Yeah, I think okay. So beyond the games, does Sony have like a message about the PlayStation 4 or PlayStation 4 Pro that it tries to convey at this E3 show?
No, I think this is going to be pretty much an all games all the time affair this year.
Yeah, I think you're right. I don't think I think they're going to be like, yeah, PlayStation 4 Pro. Every game will say enhanced for PlayStation 4 Pro. They'll say that. They might have a little bit on VR. But that seems more like something they would show off at the show itself and have people come and try.
But Jeff, what about the Vita? It's not even like a question.
No,
anymore,
I know. Yeah,
right?
it's not. I think a lot of GameStops are actually taking Vita games off the shelves. I've been actually talking to GameStop about that, trying to figure out if like it's like a corporate wide thing or just certain GameStops are doing that. That system is very dead. Yeah, you're right. It's not even a question anymore. Yeah. So yeah, I agree with that. All games all the time. And nothing, and no. I think that's going to be the way that they actually counter, like Microsoft, anything Microsoft might do with Project Scorpio, where that's going to be, their equivalent of the PlayStation 4 Pro, but it's going to be even more powerful. Now Microsoft is going to say, "Oh, we have the bestest console now," and someone's going to be like, "Yeah, well, okay, games. We have all the games, just like all of 2017. We've had all the games. Now at the C3, we have even more. Choke on that or whatever." So yeah, I think that's their strategy. And it's worked for them before, and it'll work this year.
Cool.
That's going to do it, everybody. That's going to wrap up this week's podcast. We're going to be back next week. Mike, what the hell? I think we do a podcast next week. That's going to be Nintendo, the 29th. Mm-hmm. On the 5th, we do one more.
On the 5th?
On the 5th, we're going to do
Then we're in LA.
Yeah, and then we're at E3.
It's crazy.
Yeah. We're going to try to do some podcasts at E3. It's something we're going to have to still kind of figure out how the schedules are going to work. We're not a huge team, but we'll figure it out. With me and Mike, maybe at least once a night, we'll get together, maybe do a 20, 30-minute show, kind of catch up, talk about the stuff, get it up on the site. But for now, we're going to keep moving up. We're going to keep talking about these games with Nintendo next week, wrap up the week after that. Then we're there. Thanks for listening, everybody. Again, if you want a chance to win a wireless NES Classic Edition controller, email us with your NES memories at gamespluspodcast@venturebeat.com. And we're going to pick some winners, and we're going to get that sent out to you. Thanks for listening, everybody. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you next week.
Bye. 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 Bye.